And to stand here today on the very road where not 2,000 years ago, so many from everywhere ventured to fulfill that desire to be closer to the Creator. It's a humbling and honoring experience. As you go through the layers of history, you realize that all the civilizations that conquered the city, all the ones who tore it down and built on top, are all gone. The Roman Empire is no more, nor any of the others that sought to conquer and rule this land. But one people remain. They have returned. For God's promise is eternal, and it is perfect, and His word is always true. And I'm honored to be a part of its fulfillment here with you tonight.
Let's now talk about something beautiful that happened last week, and that is that the city of David, which is in eastern Jerusalem, close to the Kotel, the Western Wall, celebrated the opening of the Pilgrimage Road, which is a road that leads from the Siloam Pool in the lower part of it up towards the Temple Mount. This is what people walked 2,000 years ago. And so not only did the prime minister come, not only did the U.S. ambassador to U.S. ambassador to Israel come, but also Secretary of State Marco Rubio flew in, and he came to talk about hostages, and he came to talk about defeating jihadism and the Qatar strike and all that. But he really came to talk about Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, and that reunification of Jerusalem, the rebuilding of Jerusalem, and the finding of the Jerusalem below the ancient Jerusalem, connecting with the Jerusalem above. Here is Marco Rubio at the city of David, underneath modern Jerusalem, in the bowels of Jerusalem, finding ancient Jerusalem and reconnecting to it. Here is what Marco Rubio came and said in the land of Israel, in Jerusalem.
Thank you very much. It's truly a pleasure and an honor to be here today on this important occasion. It's Mr. Prime Minister and Ms. First Lady, thank you for joining us. To my wife, Jeanette, who has also been able to be a part of it and has been a big supporter and frequent visitor as well here to this such a special project. To our ambassador, Ms. Huckabee, thank you as well for joining us here tonight. I come on behalf of the United States of America and of our president, who I spoke to about 2 hours ago and told him I would be visiting here, who sends his highest regards and deepest admiration and congratulations on what is being celebrated here this evening. I come as the Secretary of State as a nation that was founded 249 years ago, 250 years next year. We'll be celebrating that. I know that that is young by your standards, but from our purposes, it's a special occasion.
How important is it that Marco Rubio recognizes the real age of Israel, which is certainly not since 1948? This is the third Commonwealth, and he sees that.
And one in which it's important for us to be reminded upon what it is our nation, the United States, was founded on. The United States was founded on a powerful idea, defined not by geography, ethnicity, or anything else. It was founded on the very powerful principle that the rights of mankind comes from their Creator. Now, perhaps that principle today is taken for granted, but when those words were written 250 years ago, it was a revolutionary idea. Up until that point, every man, woman, and child, largely, that had ever lived on the earth was governed by people they did not choose and had no role in picking, and over whom they had little influence. And change came not through elections or at the ballot box, but through wars and through conquest. And so the idea that somehow our rights, our dignity, our value as a human being was rooted in the fact that our rights came from our Creator. That was a revolutionary idea 250 years ago, one that I believed helped change the world. But that idea did not come from the ether. It did not come from someone's imagination. It was deeply rooted in the traditions, in the teachings of ancient words, thousands and thousands of years, that find its genesis here, literally on the very spot on which I stand. For it was here that God fulfilled His promise to His people. It was here that the lessons that form the base rock and the foundations of our laws, of the principles upon which we decide what is right and what is wrong, was built upon. If you think about the things that today we in civilized societies used as rules to govern us, these things did not come because good people wrote them. They came because they were rooted in ancient teachings that found its genesis here, not just in the city, but literally on the very spot on which we stand. It's an interesting thing about humanity. Almost anywhere in the world you go, and there are some incredible archaeological sites around the planet, I believe none as important as this one. But it is stunning how many of these archaeological sites, be they pyramids in Central America or pyramids in Egypt not far from here, were in some ways all defined by the desire to get closer to the divine. Something is programmed in the DNA of us as creatures that yearns to be closer to our Creator. This has been true across societies forever. But it was here where a road led God's people to their Creator. It was here that a road led them to be as close as they possibly could, not just to the Creator of our species, but of the heavens and the earth and all the universe. And it strikes me as we stand here today to inaugurate this pilgrimage road, we are reminded that truly we are all pilgrims, seeking our own road towards our Creator, towards the divine. For deep inside of us, we all know that we were created for a purpose and for a reason, that our dignity comes from our Creator. We deeply believe in our country as a founding principle from the God of Abraham and Isaac. And to stand here today on the very road where not 2,000 years ago, so many from everywhere ventured to fulfill that desire to be closer to the Creator is a humbling and honoring experience. One more thing of note. This is a fascinating city. I joke, but maybe not joke, that I live in Miami. If you dig a couple feet, you'll hit coral rock. Here, if you dig a couple feet, you'll hit history. So much of the city is built, has been described to be almost as a birthday cake. Layers and layers of human history. And for that, we're incredibly grateful. To be able to see the work that went into this project and to see not just stones, not just ruins, but from this very site to be able to touch a road and stones and the remnants of construction that give word and give life to teachings that we've heard our entire life. To be able to touch and walk upon roads and stand next to not just symbols, not just historic artifacts, but to things that bring to life the ancient lessons and ancient teachings that have guided our societies for thousands of years, without which America, an exceptional nation, never would have been possible, is a humbling and moving experience. But one more thing is striking. As you go through the layers of history, you realize that all the civilizations that conquered this city, all the ones who tore it down and built on top, are all gone. The Roman Empire is no more, nor any of the others that sought to conquer and rule this land. But one people remain. They have returned. For God's promise is eternal, and it is perfect, and His word is always true. And I'm honored to be a part of its fulfillment here with you tonight. Thank you.
What an amazing speech. What an amazing speech. And that those last points at the end there were just unbelievable to me. Like, the people that have built upon Jerusalem are no longer here, but the Jewish people are an eternal people and they're back. And not because they're so smart or great, but because God wills it, because God's promises are true, because his words are perfect. Oh my gosh, that just touched my heart to hear that said by such an important leader. And again, he came here to deal with the Qatar strike, try to free the hostages, Israel war with Hamas. And yet the heart of this trip was the heart of the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel, the rebuilding of Jerusalem, and the fulfillment of God's word. That's the heart of it. That's the heart of it. The heart of it is, what is this thing all about? And my producer my producer Yo pointed out to me something very true, which is like, we live in a world where big statements are made and it's just part of the news cycle. It just keeps going. Like, this was probably the most important thing that happened last week in the land of Israel. That is the most important thing that happened, was the speech, the pilgrimage road, the inauguration of that. That is more important than the rest of the stuff that happened. We're fighting wars and people are dying, but like, in terms of proclamations, in terms of historic moments, the recognition of the pilgrimage road in the city of David, in the heart of Jerusalem, in this ancient place, that's probably the most historic thing, most important thing that happened last week. And it kind of goes by. And so we here try very hard to show you what is the real, the real message, the real thing that is happening in this world. And that's truth. And that's Yerushalayim, and that's eternal. That's the eternal promise. And those words of Secretary of State Marco Rubio, that the Jewish people survive throughout time, that it, to me, is like the most. And we have people dying in a war right now. Like, we're fighting a war, and Keir Starmer is telling us, that he's going to cut up our land and create a jihad state. And Marco Rubio is saying to us, well, don't worry about that, because you're going to win in the long term. Because he very well, who knows if England or this jihad will be around in a few years. It will not necessarily be around at all.